The Night Train, Pioneer, 7,500 words, by Don Fern. Table of contents: the afternoon, the evening, the night. The afternoon. It was an October afternoon. The passenger train, Pioneer, was boarding passengers in Memphis to begin its overnight route to Washington, D.C. Matt and Kim were near the end of the line to board the second coach car behind the engine. They watched the front of the line, as Wanda boarded the coach car. On the platform beside Matt and Kim, Amy and her luggage were being driven beside the train. She was being taken to her sleeping room, which was towards the rear of the train. Matt and Kim were among the last to board the car, so the conductor asked Wanda, who was sitting in a window seat, if she didn't mind having a person join her. She said it was okay, and Kim sat in the aisle seat. Matt sat in the aisle seat across from Kim. Outside the window which Wanda was sitting next to, Donald walked past. Donald went to the fourth coach car and found a seat. Then a bit later Dolores walked by. Dolores went to the third coach car and found a seat. The Pioneer's lights went off. Kim asked Wanda, "Why did the lights go out?" Wanda answered, "They always do that. That's when they disconnect the electricity from the station and connect the electricity supplied from the train. The lights switched back on." Kim asked, "Have you took this train before?" Wanda answered, "A couple of times since I moved to Mapleville from Kentucky." Kim motioned to Matt, "Neither of us have been on this train before." "Is Mapleville in Tennessee?" Wanda replied, "It's in West Virginia. It's a small town. But they have a growing economy. I started my own psychic business there. In Kentucky there weren't enough customers to keep it going. There are several psychic businesses in Mapleville. It's a place where the psychic energy is strong." Kim didn't know what to reply after Wanda mentioned psychic energy. So she said nothing. Over the speaker the conductor announced, "Welcome to the Pioneer. We left Memphis on schedule at 3:35 and are scheduled to arrive in Washington at 9:32 a.m. tomorrow morning. We will be stopping at Nashville, Louisville, Cincinnati, Charleston, and all intermediary points. There is a quiet time on this train. It is from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. At that time the lights will be turned down in this car. If you like to be up during that time you should go to the cafe or lounge car. The lounge car is the third car behind this one. The cafe car is the car behind that one. And the dining car is behind the cafe car. The restrooms are located below each coach car. There will be 2 smoking stops. The first is at Nashville at 6:15 p.m. and the second is at Cincinnati at 12:15 a.m. These stops are for anyone who would like to leave the train while other passengers are boarding. This train has been sold out. This means all seats will be taken part of the time. Passengers will be boarding and deboarding during the trip. So your carry-on baggage should be above your head and any large luggage should be in the luggage area below, where you entered the train. There is an area at the end of each car, where luggage can be placed. If you want to put your luggage there, a conductor will assist you in doing that. This route follows the route of the original Pioneer train, which was discontinued in the late 50s. So welcome to the resurrected Pioneer. In the fourth coach car, Dolores walked down the aisle, past Donald, and went down the steps to the restroom area. Donald got out of his seat and went down the stairs to the restroom area. In the corridor, outside the restrooms, Dolores said to Donald, "Can't wait to get off this train in Washington tomorrow. It'll be all over then. Then I'll have what I deserve. That Connie is getting nothing." Dolores pulled a group of stapled papers, held them up, and said, "With these and her signature, I will have it all." "Donald, how is she supposed to sign them?" "She's not going to sign them. She's signing nothing you have." "Dolores, she will sign for Connie." "Donald, you keep saying that, but it's not going to happen. Connie is in Mapleville. Not on this train. This is just stupid." Dolores glared at Donald. Donald's expression of comprehension changed to the expression of puzzlement. "Dolores, nothing I say is stupid. You remember that? Dolores stopped talking, stared into the abyss, and said, "We've been following her around Memphis for 3 days. That's how we know what to do." Idiot. Donald, we've been following Amy around Memphis for 3 days. That's how we know Amy has papers with her that she will sign after the train reaches Mapleville, and Connie will control the family wealth. Dolores, I know that. You just be around in case I need you. You can have your money and leave after that, as far as I care. Let's get back to our seats and stay away from each other until tonight. In the second coach car, Kim watched the seat in front of Matt, where one person was sitting in the window seat. He was somewhat rugged, skinny looking, and was wearing a bandana on his head. His appearance reminded Kim of the pirate characters she has seen in movies. And Kim knew the cargo from the islands of the Caribbean crossed the Gulf and continued up the Mississippi to Memphis and the north. Kim found it both interesting and difficult to understand the cultures of the world. So she watched him. The pirate had 2 opened cans sitting on the fold-down tray in front of him. The lids, still attached, were being used to place each can in just the right position. Using the spoon in his hand, the pirate quickly put a spoonful from one can into his mouth and then 2 spoonfuls from the other can into his mouth. Then he relaxed while he properly chewed the food. After swallowing the food, he repeated the process of quickly putting food into his mouth and the properly chewing of it until both of the cans were empty. He then folded the lids of both cans, placed them and the spoon into a brown sack. Then he slid the sack into a black bag on the floor at his feet. Then he laid back in his seat and watched the woods go by the train window. The conductor came through the car, scanned their tickets and put a tag above their heads. The tags showed Wanda was going to Mapleville, and Matt and Kim were going to Washington. After this, Wanda said to Kim, "The cafe car will be opening soon. I think I'll go back there. Would you two like to come along?" Kim looked at Matt and answered for both of them, "Sure. We'll go along." They walked to the cafe car. Matt and Kim both got sodas. Wanda got a soda and a cheese stick. Wanda picked up a couple of napkins from the counter. The 3 went to a table. Wanda sat on one side. Matt and Kim sat on the other. Wanda broke the end of the cheese stick off and placed the remainder of the cheese stick on one napkin and placed the other napkin on the table beside the cheese stick. Then she ate the portion of the cheese stick, opened her soda, and drank from the can. Matt and Kim each opened their soft drinks and took a sip. The napkin, beside the cheese stick, rose up from the table, and stopped in the air about 6 inches above the table. Matt and Kim were stunned and speechless. Wanda said, "There is psychic energy on this train." The napkin drifted to the tabletop. Matt and Kim could not believe what they had just seen. Kim just didn't know what to say or do. She found herself looking at the remaining piece of the cheese stick on the other napkin. She watched as the cheese stick changed into a curved round-shaped piece of cheese. She looked at Matt. He was looking at the cheese. Now she had to speak. All she could say was the question, "What?" Wanda answered, "The energy is more strong than you would expect." Kim managed to ask, "What energy?" "Wanda, the psychic energy that people have. I can sense it. Particular in Mapleville. That's why many psychics are moving there. As they move there, it becomes stronger. That's why I moved there." "Kim, what has that to do with cheese?" "Wanda, I really don't know. But it's known the energy can cause objects to change their shapes. Sometimes a psychic event is a warning of what's to come. I hope it's nothing to do with this train." After this, Kim and Wanda chatted a while, but not about the psychic energies. They completed their drinks and, with Matt, began their return to the second coach car from the engine. As they walked through the third coach car, they noticed a mother and daughter who were sitting together. They were watching a black and white movie. Something that would have been made in the 30s. However, they were watching on a modern flat-screen device. The screen had a split cord going to 2 pair of earphones. The mother and daughter had their own earphones while sharing the picture. After they arrived at their seats, the conductor announced the first stop will be Clumber Plains. The stop will be in 3 minutes. The passengers deboarding at Clumber Plains should check above and below their seat to gather their possessions. The passengers going to Clumber Plains should go to the lower level of the third coach car from the engine. Kim watched as the pirate walked past her on his way to the third coach car. The black bag in his hand. The sack inside. The 2 cans and the spoon, inside the sack. After an hour of traveling, the conductor announced that the next stop will be Nashville and everybody going to Nashville should check around their seats. He also said, there will be 2 doors open for leaving at Nashville. Nashville is the first smoke break. So whoever wants to leave the train for a while should go to the lower level of the 4th coach car from the front of the train. Stay around the door. The train will be leaving as soon as the new passengers have boarded. Matt and Kim went to the 4th car and stood outside the train while the passengers boarded. There was a younger man, probably in his early 20s, talking with a small group of passengers about how he was in the army and had a fierce-looking eagle tattoo on his back. He said his army unit symbol was a fierce-looking bird. And his tattooed bird was fiercer than that. A middle-aged man with another group about 20 feet away was listening. He walked over to the former army man and held out his hand and said, "I'd like to thank you for your service." The former army man did not shake the other man's hand. Instead he said, "Don't thank me, I spent 2 years working in an office in Texas." The middle-aged man returned to his group. The former army man continued talking, saying he has been out 2 years and has not been able to find a job in Texas. He said he grew up about 125 miles northeast of Cincinnati and he was going to Frankfurt to look for a job. That he had passed through there once while he was in the army and thought he could find a job there. Then the conductor shouted that the train was leaving and everybody should get on board. The train ride through North Tennessee was a pleasant journey. The train reached Kentucky. The clouds started moving. A rainstorm was in the distance. Lightning bolts were hitting the ground. The thunder was not heard as the distant storm approached. Suddenly the storm was on the train. The heavy rain, thunder, and lightning. The storm caused a feeling in Wanda. Wanda's reaction was strange and frightening. She spoke to Kim, "I don't like this. This is not good." Kim replied, "It's just a passing storm. Should go by soon. A quick-moving storm. Should be over as quick as it arrived." Wanda, with a removed look, said, "No, it's the cheese, in the cafe car." Prediction. The train moved through a thick woods and curved into a tunnel. It was black outside. Wanda and Matt and Kim sat waiting intensely to see the end of the tunnel. Finally there was a light and the train emerged into a rocky, treeless area with a creek of rushing water running beside the train. The rain continued. There was a bolt of lightning that hit the ground a quarter mile away. The clap of thunder reverberated in the train. Then it disappeared. Everyone looked around. Everything seemed okay. The rain continued. The thunder and lightning became more distant. A conductor walked by. Wanda asked, "Where are we?" The conductor replied, "We're going through Gopher Pass." Wanda, "Does it always rain like this? Cause the creek to rise like this? It's out of its banks." The conductor, "There's a dam upstream about a half mile. When it rains a lot they let the water out. In a little bit we'll be going through another tunnel and we'll be out of the pass." A lingering flash of lightning hit the ground about 1/2 mile up the creek. The clap of thunder was louder and different. The vibrations of the thunder persisted longer. Wanda glared at the creek as water rushed by. "It's the dam." That's what it was, it's the dam. Matt and Kim sat there stunned and speechless. Wanda watched the creek waters rush above the banks. The train curved to the right and entered the second tunnel. The train curved to the left. The tunnel continued. The train continued on the curve. Wanda looked into emptiness, and audible, under her breath, spoke, "Get off the train." Kim looked through their car door to the first car. The passageway, between the cars, was filling with passengers. The aisle in the first car was filled with passengers pushing toward the back of the car. A conductor ran down the aisle towards the front car. A young man, seated toward the front, said, "We're getting off," and stood up. The conductor running forward shouted, "Nobody gets off this train. Stay in your seats." The conductor opened the door to the passageway and shouted, "Nobody allowed in this area. Get back to your seats. Everybody, get in your seats." The train curved right. The woods reappeared. The rain was falling. The thunder and lightning were in the distance. The passengers returned to their seats. There was silence on the train. A few miles down the track, people began speaking with each other and began walking to other cars. No one spoke of the storm or the tunnel. The evening, as the clouds cleared, the sun was just setting below the tree tops in the west. The trees were almost bare, with only a few yellow and orange leaves still on the branches. Matt and Kim sat on one side of a cafe car table and Wanda sat on the other. The mood the storm had left on the train had been slowly disappearing. A middle-aged lady sat by the window across the aisle at another table. The cafe car was getting crowded. A second middle-aged lady with a young man, who looked the age of someone recently out of high school, came to the table. The lady asked the sitting lady if they could sit down. She said it was okay. The lady sat with the other lady and the younger-looking man sat across from her. The lady by the aisle glanced across the aisle at Wanda and said, "That was a scary storm we went through back there. And going through those tunnels made it worse." Wanda said, "Scary it was." The lady asked, "Where are you from?" Wanda answered, "I'm from West Virginia now. I've lived in Kentucky for 7 years. Before that." "Where are you from?" The lady answered, pointing at the much younger man, "We're from California. We've been on the other train from Los Angeles to Memphis for 2 days. It seems like forever." "Wanda, that's a long way. Where are you going?" "Lady, we're going to Cincinnati." "Wanda, well, it shouldn't be too much longer now." The lady turned to the lady sitting by the window and said, "We've seen people going to a lot of places for the last 2 days. Where are you going?" She replied, "To Orlando. I need to change trains at Washington." The lady by the aisle asked, wondering, "Why are you going there?" The lady by the window replied, "To sit by the pool." At the next table, Kim watched a very young-looking male, maybe 15, and a younger-looking female, maybe 14 or even 13. Kim thought, from their clothes, that they were both Amish. There was a very young child, perhaps a few weeks old, in a carrier on the table. The attention they were giving to the child caused Kim to feel they were the parents of the child. Once they felt relaxed, Wanda and Matt and Kim left the cafe car. Wanda and Matt and Kim entered the lounge car. Amy was sitting in the lounge car and asked a conductor if lights in the hallway of the sleeping cars would be turned off after 10 p.m. The conductor answered that they would be, but there are lights at the edge of the floor so the hallway can be easily seen for walking. After the conductor left, Wanda, not knowing she would get an answer, "I have been wondering about the prices for the sleeping cars. Are they very expensive?" Wanda was a little surprised that Amy was happy to answer and said, "They usually are. They can cost 2 to 3, maybe even 4 times the coach price for a ticket. It all depends on the time of the year you are traveling and where you are going." Wanda was surprised by the answer and said, "I never knew they were that much." "Amy, most people don't. I've been riding trains for most of my life. The sleeping car prices have increased over time. My parents introduced me to riding on trains. A lot of people no longer use trains. But I just continue to ride them. Our parents introduced them to us. Everybody in the family would rather take a train than a plane. It just got started and continued. Wanda, listening, asked, "Mind if I sit down?" "Amy, that's fine, go ahead." Wanda sat in the chair beside Amy. Matt and Kim sat in the two chairs beside Wanda. Amy continued talking, "Of course it has gotten more expensive as the years go by. But if I have the time, I always use the train. I never been bothered by the expense or time. I was born into money. It was passed down through the family. When your life is like mine, you do things different than others. Today someone needs to take a plane just because of their working time limits, and the time that have for the vacation is limited. When you don't work, you can go at any time you want and stay any amount of time you want." Matt, not sure of what answer he would get, but he just had to ask, "How did your family ever get money like that?" "Amy, it started with my great-grandfather, Henry Majors. He started the business in Memphis, in the shipping area. Back then the Mississippi had a lot of cargo going up and down it, and he was there and got into it at just the right time. Today you would not be able to do that. So now the company is in the food production industry as the main source of income. Also, the company concentrates on investing in other companies. And the investments made can really take off and get the large money everyone's running after. Most of them will get in after it's popular, which is too late to make the real money. It's better to invest time to predict the future trends in companies before making investments." Wanda heard to predict the future trends and entered the conversation. "People can see the future and make money from it. But I don't see people making any money predicting the future business trends and getting money that way. I have had a psychic business for 7 years now, and just because of the interest people have in the psychic area, I've managed to make a living. That's why I'm on the train. I have moved to Mapleville and had an increase in business." "You live in Mapleville now?" Amy replied, "I've been living there for 42 years now. That's where my daughter was born. She lives in Mapleville also." The psychic businesses only started about 3 years ago. At first many people were against it. But I figure new people in town with their own business would help the town. It really has helped. There are more stores and shops there now, which helps everybody. And leads to staying the weekends. Which starts the tourist type of businesses, which we didn't have before. So I'm glad to see the new people." "Wanda, I'm not actually a new person. But from the town's point of view I can see how I am. What I'm concerned about is the group that, to me, rip off people and have no real interest in the psychic connection itself. For me there is a real connection. I guess that's why it bothers me to see these con artists. Which is really what they are." "Amy, I can agree with that. I've seen a few con artists myself over the years. Inside the family there are rumors of psychic abilities. I try to keep a history of the family. I have several times run into ancestors that supposedly had these psychic abilities. The same as I see people either have or think they have in Mapleville. I have found no proof that anyone in the family has had any real psychic abilities." "Wanda, everybody has the abilities in them. They just don't come out for whatever reason." "Amy, I don't want to argue with you, but I don't think that's true. It seems to me somehow, now and then, someone could have the so-called psychic ability, but that is just someone that randomly has them and there is no known reason why." "Wanda, you know I've had heard that many times from many people. But for me I still think it's a thing everyone has." Then Amy got a message. She pulled a computer out of her bag and replied to the message. Chatted a very short time, then said goodbye. Amy continued the conversation. "That's funny, I just got a message from my daughter, Connie, she's in Mapleville right now. Said she had a seance from one of the psychics there. But it didn't work out." Wanda was interested in the seance and thought maybe it was a family thing and it was not her business, but she just had to ask, "Why, Did she have a seance? To her surprise, Amy answered without hesitation, she's concerned about her cousin Dolores. Dolores is one of those in the family that we wonder about. We both think that Dolores thinks she has psychic powers. Dolores is one of the black sheep in the family. In our history there are several. But Connie and Dolores are of the same generation. Connie is sensible about being born into money. Dolores is not. Connie thinks that Dolores can somehow use her so-called psychic powers to get more than her share of the family money. One of the psychics in Mapleville convinced Connie that she could have a seance and contact my great-grandfather and he would help her figure out what Dolores is up to. Of course it never worked. She just had to tell me about it. Wanda, Interesting. This is one of the things that has kept me interested in the psychic. I keep hearing stories just like this one. I really don't know what to think about them. But they keep my interest. Maybe it's the reason I have been in the business for years and making my living from the business. It could be my own way of thinking so I could make a living. I just don't know. Amy, I just don't know myself about all this stuff. If you'll excuse me, I think I'll go to my room and rest a while. Wanda, of course. It's been nice to meet you. Amy left, going to the rear of the train in her sleeping car. Wanda, and Matt and Kim started to the front of the train in their coach car. As they walked to their coach car, the conductor announced that it was 10 p.m. and the lights were turned down. The night as Wanda passed through the third coach car, she walked by Dolores. Wanda continued to the end of the car and stopped. Matt and Kim watched as a dazed look appeared on Wanda's face. Wanda stood for several seconds with the confused look. And after a few steps stopped and came somewhat out of the dazed look. Kim was concerned and asked, "Are you okay?" Wanda, after the look left, "Did you say something?" Kim replied, "I was wondering if you were okay." Wanda replied, "Of course. Why wouldn't I be okay?" Kim, "You were just standing there." Wanda, looking puzzled, said as a question, "I was." And then continued to their coach car. All sat in silence. Wanda sat a while and said nothing, then spoke to Matt and Kim, "There was a powerful energy in the car behind us. Very strong. Very deceitful. I never felt anything like that before." Matt and Kim didn't know what to say, only expressed the look of bewilderment on their faces. Wanda continued, "There's something on this train. It's frightening." "It's not frightening. I don't know what it is, but there's something or somebody on this train." Wanda got up and walked towards the rear of the train. Matt and Kim followed behind her. Wanda came to the car door and reached her hand out to open their coach car door. Then she saw Dolores get out of her seat and walk to the rear of her car. Wanda said nothing while she watched Dolores open the rear door of her car and go into the next car. Wanda opened the door, entered the car and walked to the rear of the car. Then she stopped and looked into the next car. She saw Dolores and Donald going down the stairs. Wanda said to Matt and Kim, "She has the energy. It's very powerful. Deceitful. But somehow it isn't. I just can't tell. It's frightening." Kim responded, "What are you talking about? What are you saying?" Wanda, "Just believe me. Maybe. Should. Get off this train at next stop. No matter where it stops. I just don't know this feeling." All three began the return to their coach car. As they went through the lounge car, they passed a young male and young female who were sleeping side by side in chairs in the dim light. Wanda walked ahead through the cars and reached her seat. Matt and Kim, following behind, arrived and sat in their seats. No one spoke. Dolores was in the restroom downstairs of the fourth coach car from the engine. She had several stapled papers held up and showing Donald. "Dolores, it's simple. I'll get these papers into her room and get the real ones out. Then she will sign these papers. Then I will control the family wealth and control the family. It will be good for these inferior people I've been stuck with since I was born. Donald said. Talk quietly, there may be someone in the restrooms. Dolores replied, there is no one in the restrooms. Donald said, how do you know? You haven't looked. Dolores repeated sternly, there is no one in the restrooms. And looked directly at Donald. Then Donald shifted his eyes off of her. She continued with the plan saying, after switching the papers. I will go into Amy's room as Connie and get her signature on the papers. She stopped talking and turned into Connie with Donald watching. Donald said, I wish you wouldn't do that. It's too scary. Besides, Amy knows Connie is not on the train no matter who you look like. Donald stopped talking and Dolores looked at Donald. Donald showed extreme fright and asked, Connie, what happened to Dolores? Dolores replied, you don't know I'm not Connie and neither will Amy. Donald muttered and said, I really wish you wouldn't do these things. It's unreal. Dolores, I know, ignorant humans don't understand the powers. Donald knew it was time for him to quit talking, so he did. Dolores climbed back up the stairs and Donald followed along. In the second coach car, Wanda started talking to Kim, the lady back there somehow connected with what's going on this train. I don't know what it is, but she's connected with it. Kim without speaking listened to Wanda. Matt across the aisle listened in also. Wanda, this whole thing started when the napkin floated above the table this afternoon and then the cheese changed. Then Amy in the lounge car. Talking about her granddaughter and grandniece. And the psychic things within their family. All this is connected. That is why what is going on this train, is happening. Don't know how it all fits. But it explains the energy on this train. Kim sat for a while, not saying anything. Wanda, I think I'll talk with Amy again. To find out what is going on. Kim finally said, we have no idea where she is. What car she's in or what room she has. Wanda, the conductors on the train know where she is. We could ask them. Kim, they're not going to tell you. Wanda, maybe we could have one of the conductors ask her to join us in the cafe car or lounge car. There's always someone in the cafe car. I'm going back to see if they would do that. Kim got up and let Wanda out of her seat. Wanda walked towards the cafe car. Kim and Matt followed along. They arrived in the cafe car. Wanda asked the cafe attendant if he knew if the older lady that had a sleeping car had been around lately. He answered that that could be a lot of people, but he hasn't seen anybody like that. Then said, Clyde is in charge of the sleeping cars. He would know where she was. He's always around the dining car or the sleeping cars. You can go back to the dining car to ask for him. Wanda and Kim and Matt went to the dining car. Waited a little since there was no one there when they arrived. Then a conductor came from the sleeping car and they found that he was Clyde. They explained to him that they would like Amy to join them. Clyde said he would go to her room, tell her they would like to see her. He said they should wait there and he'll be back in a minute. The conductor left. They waited a few moments and Amy walked into the dining car. Wanda explained her concerns about the psychic energy on the train to Amy. After listening to Wanda, Amy said, why don't all of you come to my room? It's a much quieter place to sit for a chat. They all went to Amy's car. Amy's sleeping car was the second one behind the dining car. Her room was the third one from the rear of the car. Wanda explained to Amy why she thought something suspicious was going on. Wanda told Amy the strangeness of the napkin floating and the cheese changing shape right after the train started. That this was her first feeling of the energy on the train. Amy spoke to Wanda saying, I was eating here in the room right after we left Memphis. I saw a cheese stick change shape here on the table. It was kind of frightening, but I didn't think much about it. I have seen many things during my years. I don't put much stake in things like that anymore. After listening to Amy, Wanda is convinced that the lady, in the third car with the energy, caused the 2 cheese sticks to change shape and the napkin to levitate. Wanda is convinced this lady is Dolores. Wanda asked Amy, "Is Dolores on this train?" Amy, "No. Dolores is in Memphis." Wanda asked, "Could she be on the train without you knowing it? Have you been around the train or have you been in and around the sleeping cars?" Amy thought and answered, "I've been around the sleeping car, the lounge, the dining car. That's about all." Wanda said, "There is a lady in the third coach car from the engine. She has psychic energy. I think she's Dolores." Amy, "I guess that's possible, but I don't know why she would be on this train." Wanda, "I would like for you to walk with me to the car and see if it's Dolores. You can stay in the car behind her and she shouldn't be able to see you." Amy, "If she's on this train, I want to know about it." They both walked towards the front of the train. As they approached the dining car, Amy looked through the car door window and saw Dolores in the dining car. Amy said to Wanda, "That's Dolores sitting right there. Let's go back to the room." They both returned to the sleeping car room. In the room, Amy explained more about the rumors of psychic abilities in their family. "We are from an old family and there have been rumors heard about these abilities in all the generations. Today Dolores is the only one in the family that has the rumor attached to her. Between Connie and me we cannot figure out why Dolores has these rumors connected to her. We have seen nothing that shows Dolores has psychic powers. But for some reason we have these feeling that there is something about her that is different." Wanda, "That's not unusual for someone, around a person who has the powers, to have those feelings. I would like to talk with Connie. Since she seems to be more connected with Dolores. I think she could be helpful in figuring out what is going on." Amy, "You can chat with her on my computer. I'll get her and tell her what we're doing." Amy put her computer on the table and after a few clicks had Connie on. She explained to Connie what they were doing. Then she turned the computer to Wanda and said, "She said she would talk to you." Wanda sent the message, "Hello Connie. I'm Wanda. I'm here with Amy. I would like to hear just what happened at the séance you recently had." The message from Connie said, "We were in the back room. She did something. I don't know what it was. Then she turned down the lights. Then her look changed like she was staring into nothing. I thought for a second that there was someone else in the room. Then all at once she came out of the trance-like state. Nothing else happened." Wanda sent the return message, "When you had the feeling of someone being there. There was someone there for that moment. The psychic was a fake and she did not know what was happening. So she came out of her fake state of being in contact with the other side." "Who did you ask her to contact?" A message appeared on the screen, "I asked her to contact Henry Majors, my great-great-great-grandfather, the founder of the company." Wanda, "From what you are saying he was there, but because of the psychic, he stayed only for a moment." Wanda said to Amy, "What we need to do is have a séance to contact Henry Majors." Amy, "I completely agree. Is there a place we should go to? Will it work in this room?" Wanda, "If it works it will work in this room. We have to set up the right conditions. It needs to be dark but with some low light and we need some object that connects with the person on the other side." Amy, "I brought some candles with me in case there was an emergency. But I don't have anything that is connected to the other side." Wanda sat and thought a while and said, "Do you have the cheese?" Amy didn't know what she meant and asked, "The cheese?" Wanda, "The cheese you saw change shape this afternoon. It's somehow connected with the other side since some energy came from there which caused it to change." Amy thought and then pulled out a curved round-shaped piece of cheese from the food container on her bed. "Yes. This is it." They put the end table in the center of the room. Stood 3 candles on it and placed the cheese in the center. They turned off the lights. They lit the candles. Wanda sat and said nothing. Then she looked into emptiness. Then she spoke, "Henry Majors." A fog of white appeared in the room. It took the shape of a person. It took the shape of a female person. The female wore a dress of the 1920s. Wanda came out of the trance-like state. Amy looked at the spirit and asked, "Lizzie?" The spirit of Henry Major's wife, Lizzie, spoke, "Yes. I saw you only a few times in life. I have seen you many times from the afterlife." "Amy, are you really here?" Lizzie said, "I am as close to really here as I can be. I was with Connie but only for a moment." Lizzie paused for a moment then continued, "I heard the voice of Connie calling. I went to Mapleville. But the medium was blocking the communication, as many do, when they only think they can communicate, but cannot. From Connie I felt her concern that Dolores would use her powers to get the family's wealth. So I went with you to Memphis and watched as Dolores unfolded her plan. She will switch papers. Then she will appear like Connie. And you are to unknowingly sign over the family wealth to her instead of Connie." Lizzie continued, "I was with you when you boarded the train." Lizzie turned and started talking to Wanda, "Then I saw you on the train and recognized your powers. To contact you I made the napkin float, above the table." Lizzie continued speaking as turning, "Then to contact both of you I made the two cheese sticks change shape at the same time. The plan was made, between the three, that they will allow Dolores to switch the papers. Then she will be allowed to take that appearance of Connie and come to Amy's room, where Wanda will cause Dolores to hallucinate that Amy signs the papers. Wanda and Matt and Kim remained in the room until Wanda sensed her psychic power increasing. Wanda and Matt and Kim saw the papers as they appeared through the door and went to the table with the real papers. The real papers lifted up, floated to the door, and disappeared through it. They opened the door and watched the real papers as they floated down the hallway towards the front of the car and turned out of sight. After telling Amy not to sign the papers, Wanda left the room. Matt and Kim followed her. They went to the rear of the sleeping car hallway and watched as Dolores came around the corner. Then as she walked down the hallway she changed into Connie. Connie knocked on the door. Amy invited her in. Connie opened the door and entered the sleeping room. Wanda entered an empty sleeping car. Matt and Kim followed. Wanda went into a stare into emptiness. Matt and Kim kept quiet and watched. Then Wanda immediately came out of the stare. She appeared frightened and said to Kim, "It's not working." Wanda pushed the train doors open and ran towards Amy's sleeping car. Kim and then Matt ran behind her. As Wanda turned into the hallway she saw Dolores turn at the forward end of the hallway. She had the papers with her. Wanda blurted, "Oh. No." And ran to Amy's room door. Kim and then Matt ran behind her. Wanda opened the room door. She saw Amy calmly seated in the chair beside the bed. Kim and Matt were at the door. "Wanda, what happened?" Amy calmly replied, "Just what you said. She thinks that I have signed the papers." "Wanda, it never worked." Amy held up her copy of the papers. "It worked." Wanda looked at the paper and saw no signature on Amy's copy. Wanda stood speechless. Amy calmly said, "This family has had the powers for 5 generations. They remain in the family. After you understand the powers, you hide the powers. Only the ones that find their powers, and don't understand them, show the powers." Wanda sat on the bed. Matt and Kim heard none of the discussion between Amy and Wanda. For them, Wanda entered the room, Amy showed her the unsigned papers, and Wanda sat on the bed. Wanda felt powers she had never felt before. She never knew powers like that existed. The feelings stopped. Wanda did not know if the feelings were a dream or if they were true. Wanda will not know if they are true. Amy spoke to Wanda, "I have always been interested in the psychic. Like I said in the lounge, there have been the rumors that the psychic powers been in the family for years. I have never understood how the powers could start. Have you always had yours? Wanda, coming out of her dream, answered, No, I had the accident. All I know is I was in the sky. I wasn't scared or anything. Then I went somewhere. I have never figured out where it was. Then I stayed only a short time. Then I returned to the accident. Wanda paused. The thing about all this is what is commonly known as an out-of-body experience. I have listened to others explain what they call an out-of-body experience. Sometimes I think they really had one. Other times I think they are misunderstanding what happened or simply faking the experience. Since it is unusual, people have written much about it. I considered most of the things I have read and seen about out-of-body experiences as phony. Just to get the money. Only a few of them I feel are real. Amy, Wanda, and Matt and Kim remained awake and sat in Amy's room until morning. At the Mapleville stop, Amy and Wanda got off the train. Matt and Kim watched from the train window. Connie, her husband, and 2 kids were at the station and met Amy. She said she wanted to say goodbye to someone. Amy walked over to Wanda and thanked her for the help. Then Connie, her husband, and the kids walked, with Amy, into the station. The train pulled out of the station. At the final stop, Washington, Matt and Kim remained on the train and watched while Dolores and Donald left the train. Both carried their luggage to the other side of the platform. Then they set down their luggage. Dolores pulled the papers out of her pocket and saw the unsigned papers. 2 uniformed security officers, 1 male, 1 female, walked up to them. The male said something to both of them. Dolores said something in return. The female indicated for both of them to walk on the platform toward the station. They walked toward the station. The 2 security officers walked behind them. Matt and Kim left the train.